Hello and welcome to the second short TA orientation video, and I'm calling this one What's New for Fall 2018, and this is for Human Anatomy and Physiology 2, Cell Bio 2210. So if we start here on the home page for our cross-listed course, and remember that this is the ELC page for all of the students who are taking lab this fall, so everybody will access all of their information here. Let's go ahead and go to the course content, and let's start with the syllabus. Now, if you've taught with us before, you'll see the syllabus is actually not changed very dramatically. So we still have required materials. The laboratory manual is not changing. The learning outcomes are the same. They are not changing. The next thing we have is the grading scheme. The grading scheme is not changing. Lab is still worth 250 points out of 1,000 points, or 25% overall, and we still are going to have 200 of those points be allocated to lab exams, 4 lab practicals again this semester, 2 short and 2 long, and the rest of the points will be divided between quizzes, and I have here case study or end of exercise questions. The next thing is the lab schedule, and you all should be there on our lab schedule. This was as of today. And then the very next thing is the calendar. So we see we've got the dates over here on the left-hand column. We have the module that goes along with that. And then here we have the specific exercises, the exercises that are found in the WISE lab manual with the page numbers. This is what we expect you to reference. Okay, so what is changing, or what is new this semester? The first thing that you'll find that's new will actually be some new or updated activities for some modules. The very first module that's getting an updated activity is the very first module, the endocrine system. We'll talk about that more specifically in the prep session. The next thing that is new this semester is online testing. So if you notice here, we've got 2 short exams, 2 short checkpoint practical exams, and then 2 longer lab practical exams. These short checkpoint practical exams will be given online during the lab session. So this means that students should bring laptops to lab. They will need a laptop in order to access the exam and in order to take the exam, not a phone, a laptop. So during your orientation of your students during this first week of lab, you may want to impress upon them that they should be bringing their laptop to lab. The biggest thing that's new this semester is actually a new TA evaluation process, and so I do want to spend some additional time talking more specifically about that and in a bit more depth. So I'm going to go ahead and go there next. And this document is one that if you have attended or if you are attending our TA orientation meeting on the morning of the 10th, then you will be receiving this and we'll be discussing it during that meeting. If you can't be there, or if you needed to leave early, that's really the purpose of this short video. So we needed to have a way to evaluate TA responsibilities and evaluate TA performance in the labs. And so we came up with a process that involves identifying what we think the responsibilities of the TAs should be, and then documenting their performance for each of these responsibilities. The TA responsibilities then here are going to be in this column. These are the things that we expect you to do in this first column that's shaded. Where the print is red, these are actually things that we consider to be very important. There are some less critical responsibilities, I didn't know what else to call it, and these are going to be the responsibilities where the text is actually black. Now for each of these responsibilities, each of these things that we expect you to do, then I developed a rubric that essentially comes up with 4 different performance levels. So we have a performance level where the TA would exceed our expectations, where they meet our expectations, where they're working to meet our expectation, and then where they have not met our expectation. And for each performance level of each of these responsibilities, you can see we have some examples of TA behaviors or TA performances that would fit those criteria here. And what I want to do now is actually talk about these critical responsibilities and the less critical ones too, and sort of identify what it is that we're expecting. So the very first one is attendance at the weekly TA prep sessions. This face-to-face time is actually very important. If you are a new TA, it's important because this is where you are going to be developing your understanding of the content that's being discussed during the upcoming week's lab sessions. Furthermore, this is also where you become familiar with the resources that we have that you will be using as part of your lab discussion. And these resources would include things like human cadavers, models, and online histology slides, just to give you some examples. Additionally, this is where you can find out about what the sticky points about each of these concepts is going to be, and you can get ideas from your peers about good ways to address concepts, particularly concepts that are going to be kind of difficult. Our weekly TA prep sessions are important because this is where you get logistical information that's important for you to understand as you are managing your lab session. And it's also where you get the logistical information that you will have to convey to your students. And it's important that that be done accurately so that we don't have confusion among the students. Lastly, these weekly prep sessions are important because this is really where you get support and feedback from your peers. So occasionally during my prep sessions, I'll ask somebody to demonstrate an activity that they have that works really well. And that gives you some ideas of some things that you can do in your lab. That also gives TAs a chance to kind of toot their own horn and show off something that they're developing or something that they think that they do pretty well. And also just to, if you have a problem with some students or a problem in the lab, this is a good place to get maybe some ideas for how to address that problem. The second thing that we expect our TAs to do is to set up the equipment and to be prepared to lead the discussion and also to clean up after the lab. Now, most of the equipment, consumables, supplies, and solutions that you'll be using should be already prepared for you by Ms. Holliday. However, if you have an activity that you would like to do, if you have developed a quiz or some kind of game, if you have PowerPoint slides or worksheets or anything, we expect you to have those prepared and be ready to go in time for your lab session. Now, cleaning up after the lab really means that the lab should be left at least as clean as when you found it. And when I say cleaning up after the lab, I really don't mean to imply that we think that you are janitors, but we do expect you to ride herd on your students so that they will clean up after themselves. This is particularly problematic when students and TAs come in for the 8 o'clock in the morning lab and they find that the lab from the previous evening has not been left very clean. That's really a problem because it impinges on their time. And leaving the lab in a state that's, in disarray or dirty, that just makes people mad and nobody wants that. Okay. The next thing that we really expect our TAs to do are essentially those responsibilities are associated with teaching the lab. So these are those kind of mundane things. We expect you to take attendance. We expect you to work with students who miss a lab to know what to tell them. We expect you to work with students who require accommodations through the DRC. We expect you to cover all of the need to knows, all of the structures of importance, all of the learning objectives that are part of the lab discussion. We expect you to be responsible for teaching the lab, and here on the very first thing, we expect you to start and stop on time. So we expect you to be there. Sadly, if your lab is at 8 o'clock in the morning, we expect you to start at 8 o'clock in the morning. The last very critical responsibility, the last very critical thing that we expect of our TAs is grading. We expect TAs to grade activities, practicals, quizzes, end of exercise questions, whatever it is. We expect those things to be graded in a timely, accurate, and honest manner. We expect that you will be able to grade them in such a way that you can answer questions from students about how their exam or their quiz was graded. This is particularly important because the labs in our class are part of a larger 4-credit class. So the lecture instructors are really depending on you to be accurate and honest in your grading because this impacts the students' overall grades. Now, less critical responsibilities would include interacting with students in a respectful manner. So this means, answering their questions if they have questions, responding to emails in a timely manner within a day or two. Um, Essentially, you have a TA, we expect you to act like you're glad to be there and that you understand that you're working for the students. We expect our TAs to assist with writing lab exam and quiz questions and also with setting up the lab exams. This can be kind of an onerous responsibility, particularly in big lab sections where we have many students that are coming over the course of an entire week. From an academic honesty perspective, it's very helpful to have more than one version of an exam, and that takes time, and more hands make that less onerous. We expect our TAs to mentor new TAs and to collaborate with co-TAs. So if you're a seasoned TA, we expect that you would mentor your undergraduate or your new graduate TA. We expect you to work together with them to provide a seamless lab experience. We expect you to be there even if you are not providing the lead on the discussion that week. And it's very, very helpful for the TA that is leading the discussion sometimes just to have extra hands, extra eyes and ears in the lab to make sure that the students are doing the exercise appropriately, that they're understanding how it is that they're supposed to be recording their data, that they have identified all the organs in this particular system, whatever it is. The last thing is proctoring lecture exams. We expect our TAs to proctor the lecture exams. And again, this is very helpful from an academic honesty perspective to have extra eyes and ears in the exam or in the room during exam time. Okay. Now, along with this, this is the rubric. We would expect then that either the lead instructor or another teaching instructor would visit your lab and do an observation and then follow up with a discussion of your performance for that particular lab. And you can see that I've assigned points for each level of performance here. And then at the end of each, I've given a place to total up the points. We expect that new TAs would be able to earn a minimum of 24 points, whereas more experienced TAs should be able to earn a minimum of 36 points. A summary of our observation would be provided on a sheet that looks like this here. And then this would be actually what goes to the graduate coordinator. So we have a way to document your performance and document your improvement in performance over the course of the semester. I am very happy to talk with you more about this new evaluation protocol if you would like. So I hope that you will feel like you can ask any questions, and we will continue to talk about it as the semester unfolds. Thanks so much for your time. I'm really looking forward to working with you this semester.